going back to sports because we heard people are into sports these days. And this summer is big for sports, not only in New York City, where the Knicks are about to win the finals, but today is the kickoff of the FIFA World Cup, the 23rd FIFA World Cup. The World Cup, once celebrated as a display of international love of football, or as we call it in the United States, soccer, and a celebration of cultures and diversity and, internationalism in a way, now has been mired in controversies. We did see it with the World Cup in Qatar, but now this year, as it is being jointly hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico, we have seen scandal after scandal. And just days before this first match, which will be between Mexico and South Africa, headlines internationally have been dominated by news about extended searches of refs, of players, of the team's personnel at the airports, interrogations, visas being revoked of people trying to go to the game. I saw news today that fans in Argentina were given free TVs if they were denied a visa to go to the United States and watch the matches. And also infrastructure not being up to par in the United States to receive an event of this magnitude. So lots of intersections of politics and sports in this World Cup. And to break down what is at stake this year and how the geopolitical situation is playing out on the field, we are very excited to be joined by BT's own Nicholas Mwangi, joining us from Nairobi, Kenya. Nicholas, how are you?
Hi Zoe, hi Ryan. I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Well, today is the start of a very interesting World Cup. There's a lot of reasons why this tournament is historic and in many ways bizarre, but I think let's start out with basics. Nicholas, you're a big football fan. You follow the sport closely. What are you excited about with this World Cup, and what is historic about this year for teams from the African continent?
Wow. Now I'm looking forward to it as a football fan and somebody who also played soccer for a while. And so the World Cup is always an exciting time, an exciting tournament. But every tournament, even regional tournament, we just had the African Cup of Nations this year, and it was lovely. So we're always looking forward to regional and global tournaments. Today, South Africa, Mexico. We hope South Africa wins. We hope all African teams go to the farthest. We have only reached semi-final once, and that is Morocco in Qatar, and they finished fourth. The closest again was Ghana in 2010, Cameroon in 1990. So we need to go far. I think another exciting thing is that there are more teams from Africa for this tournament, around 10, which is an increase from previous numbers of participation from the continent. But yes, it's turning out to be a World Cup of chaos, confusion, and disappointment. But we'll see how it goes. But definitely not a tournament like any other, compared even to Qatar World Cup, a country that has been accused of a lot of human rights issues. But even Russia, the tournament at the par, the inclusion was at another level. So yes, but generally, we are hoping that the continent goes far in the tournament.
Yeah, well, one of the challenges early on was the participation of Iran in the World Cup while the US, which is the host country, is waging a war on it. I mean, at one point, I really was wondering to myself, is it even safe for the Iranian team to try to come here? The US might actually try to assassinate them. Um, and a couple months back, a US official floated the idea of kicking out Iran and replacing it with Italy, which is so insane. But of course, this proposal was rejected. But now Iran's home base has been moved to Mexico, and the Iranian team has to basically fly in and out of the US on game days, which already puts them at a disadvantage because that's a lot to do. Can you talk about the geopolitical backdrop of this year's World Cup? What does it mean for the world's biggest bully, the US, whether it's the war in Iran or slapping the entire global south with sanctions and then deporting immigrants. What does it mean for this country to be hosting this international tournament?
I think the United States misses the point of the entire tournament, historically of how it has been hosted as a very international tournament, accommodating, even going beyond political divide for many years. And so we see that they're punishing Iran and perhaps sending a message even to the larger global south on how they're treating other people outside. Because not just Iran, South Africa are playing today, but South Africa had some delays to enter the United States. Senegal, for instance, had extra searches. Iraqi for the same. But what is even worse for Iran is that their tickets, federation tickets to the country that are usually allocated to every federation for the team participating in World Cup to at least 8% of the stadium capacity has been revoked. And that is outrageous. I've never seen something like that, never heard of that. And so not only were Iranian staff visas revoked, but even Iran fans will not be coming to the United States to celebrate their team, which is outrageous. And even the comments from the US officials that Iran should be replaced with Italy. He is from Italy and United States, I think, dual citizenship. And it's funny, and because the way Iran came to the World Cup is through merit. There are stages to World Cup. Every team that participated had to qualify. And so, how can a team qualify by merit, by hard work and persistence to this tournament, but then they don't qualify for entry to a country? And I think that's outrageous. And I think the context of the US aggression war to Iran and the war is not turning to their benefit and how they would have loved for it, the outcomes. And I think this is just one way that they're using to punish the Iran in the context of this war. It's unfortunate, never had, never seen, and I think it just leaves a bitter taste for the tournament, a tournament that should have been defined by happiness with a lot of celebration. But that targeting of Iran and even Iraq and other teams is not only send a bad message, but it's a bad taste heading to the tournament.
Yeah, it's interesting. You've never seen any such measures taken against Israel, despite the fact that they have been, present in international tournaments, whether it's a song like Eurovision or any of the sports tournaments, which of course has gained a lot of different boycott campaigns because of Israel's presence in all international spaces, representing in both the European leagues and et cetera. But I want to turn to another issue which has garnered a lot of attention and kind of indignation, which was the interrogation and the deportation of Somali referee Omar Artan. Artan would have been Somalia's first World Cup referee and is highly respected on the African continent. And of course, he's not the only person who faced scrutiny at the border. You mentioned examples of the Iranian officials, the Iraqi player. I want to show a video of Artan returning home to Somalia after his deportation. So, first it's interesting. I'm not sure any referee in World Cup history has ever received such a rousing kind of applause and cheering. This is the complete opposite of how he was received in the United States. But can you talk about how people on the continent responded to the deportation of Artan, and what does it say about how Africa is impacted by Trump's xenophobic policies?
Yeah, indeed. Another unfortunate incident that has made a lot of people in the continent angry and disappointed. Because Omar is not only the 2025 CAF referee, is a distinguished referee. He has earned it. He's very qualified, and that's why he was selected. And so, even how he was received, the solidarity is because people can tell clearly this is quite a discrimination against him. But not only symbolically, it sends a message within the continent. This is racism, this is discrimination. Why him? They have tried to give all manners of excuse. They took long to give a response why they rejected him in the first place, because he had a diplomatic visa. He was only denied entry. Then yesterday and today they start saying that he had ties with members of terror groups, which many people don't believe in that. Going by the video and the reception that he has received in Somalia and in the larger continent, the solidarity, you can tell how people feel. But also, Somali, has been designated as has been banned by the United States in terms of visa among the countries that were banned in Africa. So several countries that experiences this due to the immigration policies Trump has brought, but also they also try to tie him to a tweet that he made several years back, I think criticizing Trump on his first term. And even so, that's freedom of speech. That can be a ground for disqualifying people because of their political beliefs for a tweet or something they say. But all this process has left people angry and disappointment. He will have been the first Somali referee at the World Cup, but also one of the few African referees in the World Cup. There are not many African referees in the World Cup officiating, and so this is it's a huge disappointment. But also the message it sends, it's very, people are very bitter about it, because the World Cup should have gone beyond these political differences and variations, and so people will be looking forward to the tournament, but with a bitter taste even after what has happened to Omar.
Yeah, it's so outrageous. And then it also brings us back to the fact that, earlier this year, we had an uprising in Minnesota against the deployment of the Customs and Border Enforcement and ICE by the Donald Trump administration, which was fueled by this racism aimed at Somali Americans that Trump was pushing, as well as all of his supporters, and ended up, with the shooting and killing of several protesters in Minneapolis, both of them white, by the way, over this. So, I mean, again, fueled by racism at Somali Americans, and now we're seeing it play out here. Also, I just want to mention that the Iraqi team has also been impacted by this extreme racism being enacted against people visiting the country from places that Trump and his MAGA supporters don't like. There was an Iraqi striker from the Iraqi team who was questioned for 7 hours at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. And their team photographer, after being questioned for more than 10 hours, was denied entry. And this, by the way, is the first time that Iraq has been in the World Cup since 1986. And this is a country that, of course, the U.S. has spent the better part of the last 40 years destroying. So yeah, to then treat their players this way just adds more insult to injury, and just goes into the category of all of this just racism and hatred being pushed through the deportation and immigration mechanism of the US. And it's crazy to do this during the World Cup. But moving on from there, I wanted to ask you, for people like yourself who follow international football, or what we call soccer here in America, you're aware that FIFA as an organization is one that for decades has been steeped in corruption and scandal, and has really transformed this sport of the working class across the globe, especially in the global South, into one that's dominated by money and profit. Can you talk about FIFA's role in the transformation of football, and how the World Cup maybe has lost its way as a result?
Yeah, indeed. FIFA is supposed to be that global organization for football, and it has a major role in making sure there's a proper development for football globally, and even the tournaments that it hosts. It has a role. It has a mandate to ensure that they are very inclusive. But FIFA also has been rocked by scandals after scandals over years. Last year, the current FIFA boss Infantino was asked in regards to the fears that the revocation of visas and discrimination could be to this World Cup. And he said it will not happen. People just needed to relax. It will be very inclusive. That has not happened. He did a media interview today, and he keeps putting this word, just relax and chill. He was asked about Omar's situation, then said that it was out of their mandate, then said relax and chill. I don't know what it means, but also former boss for FIFA, Sepp Blatter, was also rocked with a lot of corruption scandals. Actually, the major scandal was the Qatar hosting the tournament, and the questions were raised how they got those hosting rights, and then there was the issue. There were lots of bribes happening, and so when Infantino came to be the boss of FIFA, a lot was expected in terms of reforms internally, but he has not moved FIFA away from a trajectory of answering just to commercial interests, and not protecting the game. Historically, this is a game of the ordinary people, the working class everywhere, that have really promoted soccer or football. So one of the major things that the FIFA should have done that is not happening, the prices are too high, and so that's not inclusive for the ordinary person who supports football every day. Even beyond the World Cup, these players that are playing in the World Cup, they play for clubs. These clubs are sustained by the communities around them. The Manchester, the Arsenals, all these teams are supported by the fan base financially, and for them to be put out to access this tournament because of the ticket prices is outrageous. And again, the question of why it's not inclusive, FIFA has really failed on that front. But it's a very structural thing within FIFA that has become a very corrupt government body in sports, and that is not answering to the ordinary needs of people, and has become very commercial, very business oriented. I had one commentator just this week saying, unfortunately, football has become a business, and we have to accept it. We might not like it, but we have to accept it. And I think that's not the way. We don't have to accept it. FIFA has a mandate to protect this game, and one wonders if FIFA indeed can dictate stadiums, standards, sponsorships, and everything. Why is it difficult to voice your own mandate and role for the inclusion of other teams and and the fans to the football. I feel FIFA has not protected Iran enough, has not protected Qatar enough, has had little say to what has transpired to African teams and the overly search of players, the dehumanizing nature that has taken place. And I think it's a big problem now for FIFA even going forward. I think this tournament will be very substandard compared to others, and it will leave major questions on how FIFA proceed from here. But yeah, that has been a story for FIFA for a long time. We have hoped, many people had hoped that that narrative and could change, but it's not changing under the current boss, and so it will be a very commercial inspired kind of event, and they've made it clear that that's their interest.
Well, it's a very, very important story. And Nicholas, you will be covering the FIFA World Cup from this perspective, because this is the perspective that we need to understand all the machinations and the inner workings of how of FIFA and these teams, and why these decisions get made. How is it that the U.S. is hosting and having all of these racist immigration policies? So if you're watching right now and you liked what Nicholas had to say, you should become a member, because he is going to be writing some of these reflections in an exclusive newsletter, which you can get when you become a member at breakthroughnews.org/subscribe. We will definitely be giving you more of this perspective. And, Nicholas, thank you so much for all of that information. And I will be joining you in rooting for the teams from the African continent. You got to do it. Let's go Senegal. Let's go South Africa, Algeria. Yeah. Saw the Algeria team touchdown in Kansas. People very excited about that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nicholas, so much for joining us. And we will definitely be coming back to you soon for more on this.
So thank you for having me.